if you take the mask off the falcon, it will think that it's time to hunt. Well, we should tell that. As I was on the stage killing it, the falcon was looking all stupid like this. I'm like, oh man, this nigga can't even see the show. So I took the mask off. Man, this falcon lost his goddamn mind. Mayhem ensued. That motherfucker floated like this and flew off my arm. And at first everybody was clapping. Yeah. And that nigga dove down 240 miles an hour. Killed a bitch in the third row. And it was a transgender bitch when it hit her, her dick popped out. Everybody screamed. I said, oh shit. I didn't know what to do. Next thing I know, the police, the Arab police came, and these bitches ushered me off stage. I didn't realize I was under arrest. I was what's the meaning of this? Clearly, these guys know it was an accident. And the next thing I know, they charged me with murder. I said, murder? The fuck, this guy's an accident. And then they emptied the court, and these niggas started reading transcripts of all my transgender jokes. Trying to act like I killed this bitch on purpose. I said, I didn't know this bitch was trans till it get popped out. This is a goddamn outrage. I'm an American. I still didn't think I was going to get in trouble, but at the end of the case, the only word in the whole trial I understood it. I said, guilty. I said, what? And my whole life flashed before my eyes. I said, I wish I never came out here. You're probably wondering how I'm here tonight. Well, I didn't know sometimes, but I found out, lucky for me, killing a transgender in the Middle East, misdemeanor. Real. Yeah, it's way easier to talk in Saudi Arabia. Jimmy Kimmel got canceled. Let me tell you something, too. Not only did they cancel Jimmy Kimmel, this guy Carr that runs the FCC had the nerve to say that Kimmel, if he wanted to get back on television, I don't know if Carr said this, or somebody said this. They said this nigga has to pay Charlie Kirk's Turning Point USA Foundation money to get back on. Now, think about that. Think about it. Elon Musk bought the election for Trump because the Supreme Court said that money is free speech. So you can spend your money however you want to speak. But if they make this nigga pay some money for some shit he doesn't believe in, well then they're compelling him to say something that he does not mean. And 6 million, oh, excuse me.
Viewers.com.
Listen.
I don't go to sites.
But I'll take money from Saudi Arabia any day, just so I can say no over here. It's good to be free. And I know that the people in Saudi Arabia can't say all the things that I was allowed to say, but a deal's a deal, and you can't say that I can say these things. So I looked at it like I was on a diplomatic mission. I gotta bring pussy jokes to the Middle East. Because they got all that pussy over there and they can't even talk about it. I said, I'll do it. Shit ain't what it used to be, is it? This nigga Puff got 6 months. I don't like talking about this, but I'm gonna do it. Here's my thing about puppet, and I gotta state my bias. Years ago, I got attacked on stage in California at the Howard another reason it's hard to talk in America because, if you talk for a living and see Charlie Kirk get murdered that way, I'm gonna be honest, nigga, I was shook. I mean, Charlie Kirk is a wholesome white guy, and I said, they killed this motherfucker. I said, these whites, I've never seen them like this. They're playing for keeps. And then remember the next day in the news, when all the information was still shoddy, they came out, they were like, apparently there were transgender messages inscribed on the bullets. I was at home like, oh no! I'm dead as fried chicken. And then weeks later, they said what was written on the bullets. One of the bullets had Bella Chow, Bella Chow, Bella, Bella, Bella Chow written on it. Another bullet had written on it, if you're reading this, you're gay. I was at home, I think I'm going to need to see these bullets. How the fuck is this nigga writing whole paragraphs on bullets? How big are these bullets? This nigga a watchmaker, he can inscribe all this shit on my bullet. I'm not making light of Charlie Kirk thing, but I'm not sure what it means. And I'm not sure I believe what they say it means. I'll tell you what I don't believe. And the whites were quick to say this. They said, Charlie Kirk is this generation's Martin Luther King. Yeah, that's a reach. They both got murdered in a terrible fashion. They both got shot in the neck, but that's about where those similarities end. Because Charlie Kirk is a motherfucking internet personality. No, by design, fundamentally can't function like Dr. Pitt. Internet niggas are negative because they have to be. Because nobody will engage them unless they say shit that makes them upset. That's Charlie Kirk. Could you imagine Dr. King was behaving like Charlie Kirk? Smash that like button and subscribe. Follow me for more content like this. I believe all life should be free. Change my mind. If the Congress took a vote that October 14th would be Charlie Kirk Remembrance Day, and everybody voted for it. No, I'm not gonna vote. Remember that nigga if you want to. And remember him however you want to. But I do know that most of those Congress will vote for that because they're afraid of political violence. I'm telling you, it's easier to talk to Saudi Arabia. I was on stage not long ago in the States, and niggas got mad because I said, maybe Puff will get off. And I said, I hope so. And the crowd was like, dude. Okay, look, it's not that I think Puff is right, but when I got attacked in LA at the Hollywood Bowl, people forget. Puff was the guy that tackled my attacker. He saved my life. It's a hard thing to be mad at after that. I had security that night, you know what I mean? They weren't ready. Them niggas had some silver shoes on, and something ran. All them niggas slipped and fell. And Puffy got my attacker and tackled him. And then years later, when I heard about that video, I was like, what did those niggas slip out? $1,000 of baby oil, that's a lot. But remember, he wasn't on trial for having $1,000 of baby oil because it's not a crime to have $1,000 of baby oil. It's gross. It's not illegal. I'm gonna tell you something else I haven't said. It's true. In LA one night, I've been to Bubba's house. didn't see, look, no, I didn't see none of the stuff they see in that trap. I walked to that nigga's living room, house was clean, traction on the floor, nothing slippery. Walk right there. Perfectly normal evening. The only thing in hindsight, but at the time it didn't mean nothing to me. I didn't think about it until after I found all that stuff out. But hindsight was fucked up. But we was on this back patio. We just drinking and laughing, talking, and then Nick Puff starts swirling his drink. I says, and he goes, so Daddy. He goes, what are you into? You know me, I'm like, I don't know, nigga, books, video games, I didn't know that was my big chance to fuck Cassie. God bless her. I'm not making light of her. The way she went through was terrible. But remember, because they kept showing this video of him beating her up in a hotel hallway. It was a terrible video. But he was on trial for that. You remember, he paid her for that before the federal charges ever came up. He paid her $35 million, is what I heard, which doesn't make it right. But I mean, come on, nigga. I do know niggas that have fought Floyd Mayweather for less money than that. And this nigga had to fight for 36 minutes. But Cassie is a gangster. She did something that I wouldn't wish on my worst enemy. She had to testify about her sex life. Boy, that's tough. God save us all from that. Anything you say about sex publicly is going to sound bad. Even if you're talking about fucking your wife face to face. But just like tell me about it. Did you fuck your wife face to face? It gets you an idea, but what could you describe it? Well, yes, I looked at her in her cold, bored eyes, and I pulled those big panties aside, and it's like a bush that just screams, I don't give a fuck, and I just, you know what I mean, just power through it, you know what I mean? Cassie had to do way harder than that. The question, they was asking all kinds. Did Sean Combs pee in your mouth? I was like, oh my God. She didn't hesitate. Yes, Robert, I said, tonight I had done something, I'd like prepared something that I wanted to try. It's hard though, but I really wanted. It's the longest closer in the history of my career. I'm gonna do it, but boy, this is gonna take a lot of focus. So please don't yell out and distract me. Just enjoy it. No, it's hard. You know, like, look, man, closing the show, closing the show is everything. And closing the show in DC is very important. So tonight I'm gonna do two different closes. I'll do my closer for DC, and then after that, they scream like a car alarm. Did you hear that? Did anybody else hear that? Jesus Christ. All right, and then after that, if I can get to it, I'll do my closing for Saudi Arabia. All right, this is a tough one. Hey, do me a favor, production. Sex it up. Give me like comedy club lights. I love you too. screaming? Give me a drink. I love you too, homie. Listen, I say this hoping it just brings somebody in this audience peace. I really do mean what I'm about to say. I know how it is right now. I understand how a lot of people feel. Turn you off, damn champ. I know how a lot of you guys are feeling right now. Can't hear me? Can you hear me? Got that Bill Cosby. It's not going to give me much time. I know how people are feeling right now. I hope that this brings peace. I feel that way too. Without question. 1,000% without question. All of us, individually and collectively, are living through some sort of a conspiracy. Sure. That feeling you have that something's wrong, or you might feel like, hey, am I right about this? Am I crazy? No, nigga. No, you're not crazy. This thing you're feeling, I'm telling you, I feel it too. But here's what I suggest. If you don't know what the conspiracy is, then just say that. I don't know is an acceptable answer. In fact, if you don't know, it is the best answer. But all this fucking guessing out loud about what the conspiracy is, beg you, please, shut the fuck up. You don't make everybody sick that way. And say I feel, and say I think, or I suspect, or it looks to me like. Please stop saying no. Because at times like this, the last person I trust is the nigga that's sure. This is madness. But here's what I think. Somehow this country went wrong. In 1910, I've narrowed it down to a specific dude. It has something to do. And think about what I say later. Not now. It has something to do with Jack Johnson. Jack Johnson was the first black heavyweight champion of the world. And the heavyweight championship, to this day, is the most prestigious title in sports. But in 1908, only white fighters had that distinction. Not because black fighters weren't good enough, but because no white fighter would give any black person the opportunity to lay their hands on them. And a guy named Tommy Burns became heavyweight champion. Tommy Burns was an anomaly. He was Canadian. And he said, I am the heavyweight champion of the world. He's Canadian. You know how, faggot they are. He was like, he said, I am not the champion of Canada. I am not the champion of white men. I am the heavyweight champion of the world. And I will defend my championship against all comers. And boy, Jack Johnson got the opportunity to fight for the heavyweight championship of the world, not from an American like he was, but from a Canadian. Now, you think that Americans would root for Jack Johnson because he was an American. Oh, this nigga was blacker than Wesley Snipes. Tommy Burns was at that time the shortest person to ever be heavyweight champion of the world. And Jack Johnson stepped in the ring and towered above him. And he beat the fuck out of Tommy Burns. Sydney, Australia. And all the white fighters in America were like, "See with me, baby? Fighting those goddamn dirty fighting monkeys." Before Tommy Burns, the heavyweight champion, had retired, was a man named Jim Jeffries. And everyone said Jack Johnson's not the real champion. They said Jim Jeffries is the real champion. And it's a good thing he's not fighting you. Beat your black ass, Jack Johnson. So Jack Johnson called out Jim Jeffries. It happened first in London. Jim Jeffries was in a parade in London, and Jack Johnson's black ass stepped out of the crowd. This nigga was dressed to the nines. He was very articulate. He said, "I say, old boy, I sure would like to give you a wallop." And Jim Jeffries just looking at him at the front. And then Jim Jeffries was in a parade in Sydney, Australia, and Jack Johnson stepped out of the crowd again. "I say, old boy, I sure do want to give you the old one, too." Jim Jeffries looked like, how does this nigga have a passport? Again, this was 1910. The hallmark of Jack Johnson's character was audacity. There's a story about him that's a legend that says that one night he was caught speeding down a country road south of the Mason-Dixon line. And the police pulled Jack Johnson's black ass over. You know, this is 1910. He must have been fine, 13, 14 miles an hour. The police stopped him. The police said, "Cost $200 for a nigger to speed on our road stand here." Back then, $200 was like getting a $50,000 ticket. This nigga Jack Johnson didn't hesitate. He gave him $400. He said, "Go back this way." After months of persistence, Jim Jeffries relented. Jack Johnson defended his title against Jim Jeffries on the 4th of July. This is where the phrase, "the great white hope," came from. They were dying to find any white man that could put this nigga in his place. I'll tell you what, on the 4th of July, Jim Jeffries was not the guy. Jack Johnson fucks his ass up. And Jack Johnson did what they call in boxing, carried the fight, which means he could have knocked him out in the early rounds, but he didn't want to die. He wanted to make it look good. But when he got sick of it, because back then it wasn't no like 15-round fights, niggas just fought until they couldn't fight anymore. When Jack Johnson got bored, put him away with the vicious right hook, and you see Jim Jeffries and the footage start to fall, but then the film cuts off. Because they didn't want any imagery. This nigga knocking out their hope. And on July 5th, all over the United States, there were riots, white riots, where they killed many black people to make sure that the rest of these niggas knew their place. Because Jack Johnson was the first black person to physically confront the color line and win. And here's the punchline. He didn't just leave the arena with his life. Jack Johnson had a very particular proclivity. He left the arena with his wife and a white bitch. Let's talk about it. You see, Jack Johnson loved fucking white women almost exclusively. He would fuck white women. And man, the audacity of this nigga beating white men up and fucking their bitches. The black boxing world was elated. Every great black fighter celebrated Jack Johnson. When they came to Jack Johnson, they said, "Jack, congratulations. Can I get a title fight?" And Jack Johnson, just like his white predecessor said, "Well, I don't fight black fighters. I'm in the business of beating up white guys and fucking their bitches." One after another, they lined up the great white hopes. And Jack Johnson would vanquish them all. In fact, it took an act of Congress to stop him. Congressman named Mann from Illinois came up with an act called the Mann Act. The Mann Act is the law that says it is illegal to take a woman across state lines for the purposes of debauchery. And my line of work, gotta know shit like that. Jack Johnson got tried, prosecuted, convicted of the Mann Act, fled the country, was on the run for years, and it ruined his life. And then finally, in 1946, died in the United States in a car crash. Before he died, it's one of my favorite quotes that any American ever said. He said, I risk everything for my pleasure. You know, having freedom is one thing. Not having freedom is another thing. But using freedom that you don't have takes an enormous amount of courage, no matter how selfish you are with it. Jack Johnson is an American riddle that we've got to solve. Not too long ago, but some years ago, I was here in Washington. I was at the MGM at the National Harbor, and I wasn't performing. I was at a Stevie Wonder show, and Stevie Wonder didn't know I was there. I was on the side stage. I got there late. He was already doing the show, and this was a very special night. It was the night. It was the night before Aretha Franklin's funeral. And Aretha Franklin was a very special person to me. The first time I ever played Radio City, she gave me a job as her opening act. Mean Balls, a great artist. And Steve was on the stage killing it. And then in the middle of his set, he started to sing a medley of all the songs that he had ever written for Aretha Franklin. And man, I got to tell you, it was a lot. Huge hits that I didn't even know he wrote. And the crowd was grooving and celebrating her life. And just suddenly, in the middle of it, Stevie broke down crying. Put his head down on the piano, and I could hear him sob. He was drunk. And it hurts a man to hear another man cry. And I didn't even think about it. I said, let's go to him. And I just walked down on stage. And you know, it's home. Like, when the crowd saw me, they started cheering. But Stevie didn't know it was me. That nigga was looking like a trouser. And I sat down next to him at the piano, and I go, Steve, it's me. And then he smiled real big, and we started cracking jokes and singing songs. And then after the show, we were backstage, and he asked me, he said, what are you doing tomorrow? I said, I'm going to fly to Detroit with you. Pay my respects to Miss Franklin. He said, no. That time, the senator had just passed away. The late, great John McCain had passed away. And Stevie said, I need you to do me a favor. He said, John McCain is laying in state at the Capitol. He said, I want you to go pay our respects to him. And I said, nigga, I would much rather go to Detroit with you. And then Stevie gave me that look. It was looked like this. He didn't even know I was all the way over here. So I went. The next day I went to the Capitol. I don't do this for anyone but Stevie Wonder. He can tell me to do anything within reason. The only thing he's told me to do that I won't do is stop smoking. That I won't do yet. But I did it. I waited in line, and then I got all the way up to Senator McCain's casket, and I was just like, Stevie Wonder sent me. Goodbye, nigga. And I just walked off. That's what he wanted to say. I did it. A lot of people don't know this. People from Washington know this, for my age. A lot of people don't know that Martin Luther King unlike Charlie Kirk, had a harder time being remembered. That the only reason that Martin Luther King's birthday is a holiday is because the King family and Stevie Wonder lobbied very hard and very long for that holiday. People forget that what they call Black Happy Birthday, the Stevie Wonder Happy Birthday, was a protest song about making the King holiday a reality. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday. And it was so effective. Finally, the Senate voted on it. 99 out of 100 senators agreed to make that birthday a holiday. Except for one, John McCain. The guy that Stevie sent me to say goodbye to. What a great man Stevie Wonder is. How much this country could learn from a man like that. John McCain, God bless him, he got himself in a pickle for that vote. But he came back to get his ass years later. Years later, he was running for president and had to run against the first nigga to ever get a party nomination. Now, Barack Obama got that nomination on the anniversary of Dr. King's I Have a Dream speech. And all the votes in McCain's long career as a senator, that vote against that King holiday had never haunted him like it did at that time. So how did he counter that? I'll tell you what he did if you remember. John McCain sponsored a bill to pardon Jack Johnson posthumously of the Mann Act. Yes, he did sponsor that bill to pardon Jack Johnson of the Mann Act. The Mann Act is precisely the law that Sean Puffy Combs was convicted of just recently. America's Unstoppable Nigger Act. Yeah, something else is going on, but I don't know. I think it's going. Hey, I'm gonna keep doing this more. I hate conspiracy theories, but I'll tell you one about, well, this is not even a theory. This part I know is fact. Did you know when I left D.C. and moved to New York in the 90s, the New York City Police Department had a hip-hop police task force? Did you know that? And this task force would follow anybody that was involved in hip-hop culture around. Not just rappers, drug dealers, because they thought that it was connected somehow. Even young comedians like me. Anybody that was just on that scene, they knew who everybody was, what everybody was doing. And back in those days, I used to go to nightclubs. Sometimes I go to the club and the lights would be a little bit different. I didn't notice. But the OGs would pull me aside and be like, careful in the club, nigga. They got the FBI lights up. Which meant that the lighting was strange because the party was under surveillance. And they were just telling me to watch my back. You know, I wasn't doing anything wrong anyway. They were just having a good time. Now, did you know that that task force was invented originally to follow just two people around? Those people was a guy named Christopher Wallace, a.k.a. the Notorious B.I.G., and Sean P. Diddy Combs. Now, why is that this nigga has been under surveillance for at least 30 years? But just now they noticed that he racketeers and beats up bitches. I bet you, if he was doing all that, I bet you they've seen him doing that for a long time. But why now? I don't know. It was strange in this case. Nobody called the police except for Kid Cudi. Everybody called Kid Cudi a snitch. But he wasn't a snitch. A snitch is when two niggas do crime together and one of them gets caught and tells on the other one to get himself out of the trouble. Kid Cudi was violated by Puff. He alleged that Puff blew up his motherfucking Porsche with a Molotov cocktail and didn't stop there. He said he then alleged that Puff broke into his house and opened this nigga's Christmas gifts. Oh, nigga, I'd have been furious. Kid Cudi said, I can't prove that he opened the gifts or nothing, but I came in the house and he was in there and the gifts was open and that nigga was just like, Merry Christmas, Playboy. So what was Kid Cudi supposed to do? He only got two choices. Either A, you're going to have to do some gangster shit for this nigga that he's going to have a hard time proving. Or if you're not built like that, and I do not believe that Kid Cudi is built like that. The last option is B. Got to call the police. Good for Kid Cudi. Did the right thing. I, on the other hand, I'm built like that. If this nigga fuck my family's Christmas up, you better believe I'm gonna make him suffer for that shit. The niggas gonna come to me and tell me all about it and not even know I did it. Oh my God, Dave. Oh. Did you hear what happened to Puppy? Oh my God, no. What happened? He was jogging by himself into Panic Lane. A falcon came out of nowhere and killed this nigga. I love hip hop music. I love many of the people that make that music. They taught me things and showed me things that I'd never seen for myself. Good things. For example, I was in Atlanta once. I'm almost done. Hang in there, champ. I was in Atlanta, and a rapper named T.I. called me up. Now, at this time, I didn't know him well. I know him better now, but I know him well enough that he had my phone number. And then he called me up. He was like, David, I heard you was in my city. He said, I want to show you the real Atlanta. I said, fuck yeah, nigga, let's go. He said, meet me down the stairs from your hotel valet. So I went downstairs. I thought he was fucking around. When I went down there, he was outside in the valet, sitting in a purple Phantom. His car must have been $1.5 million. Beautiful purple color with ivory white seats. It's the kind of car that you gotta have a chauffeur to drive with. But for some reason, this nigga was driving it himself. And I didn't ask no questions. I just jumped in the car, and man, he showed me Atlanta. Everything. Outkast never started rapping over there. Future used to play in the playground over here. And then he slowed the car up and he pointed to a house and he goes, and Martin Luther King grew up in that house right there. And he raised his children over here. And that's the church he preached in over there. And then we stopped at a red light, and these little black kids rushed the car from outside of the intersection with water bottles. These kids in Atlanta, you know, they call the water boys. They're old hustlers. They sell water for people who are stuck in that hot Atlanta traffic. I didn't know that. I just saw these young niggas running up on the car, so I locked the door like, fuck that. But T.I. rolled his window down, started giving the kids orders. Slow down, don't just run up on somebody's car. You don't know what they got in there. Smile so you look less threatening. And remember your manners. Yes, sir. No, ma'am. Please. Thank you. That'll keep you alive. And keep that condensation on that water so it looks refreshing and delicious. And then that kid realized that he was talking to a legend. He said, oh my God. He said, thanks, T.I. And held his hand out for some money. And that nigga T.I. looked at him and said, I done gave you the game, and rolled up the window and drove away. That night, I did my show. When I got on stage, T.I. was backstage with a friend of his that I didn't know. I just knew his friend was somebody because everyone was acting all excited that he was back there. So I asked him, I go, yo, Tip, who's your man? And he said, oh, that right there, that there is the future of him. And I was like, nigga, you just calm down. So then I asked the dude, I said, you're my man. I said, what's your name? And the dude looked over, he said, I'm Nipsey. And this was Nipsey Hussle. I'm not going to go all into it, but I got to tell you, that night, me and T.I. and Nipsey went out, and we had a fucking blast. Good time, not a freak all fun, but fun. So much so that when I got home from the road, my wife always asks me, she goes, Dave, how was your trip? Normally I'm just like, it was good. But this time I was like, babe, I met the coolest nigga. I said, this nigga's younger than me, but it's like he's older than me. And she's like, what? She goes, what does that mean? I said, I don't know, bitch. She's like, it's like hanging out with a fortune cookie. This nigga's had an answer for everything. I told her all about Nipsey. What was funny about it is years later, I saw Nipsey's widow, and she pulled me aside. I'd never met her. And she said, I just want to tell you that my husband loved you. She said, he said he met you in Atlanta, and you had a wonderful time. I said, boy, that's fucking crazy. We sure did. Not long after I met Nipsey, I was in L.A. doing a show. And then after the show, I got a text from a guy that said, I'm at a party, you need to be here. And I was like, I'm going to go to bed. He was like, no, nigga, you have to come to this party. So I'm thinking this must be the free golf. And the party was at a place that I've been to a million times, so I wasn't excited about being in that place. But when I walked in, it was different. It was popping. It turns out that the party was for Nipsey. Nipsey had been nominated for Rap Album of the Year, and everyone that he would ever respected was at the party. T.I. was there, Snoop was there, Jay-Z was there, Puffy, before we knew he did all that stuff, was there. I was there, on and on and on. And as good as the party was, when I was partying, I was having fun, but I had a pit in my stomach because it reminded me of the 90s. You can believe me or you can not believe me. Just telling you how I saw, how I felt. They had the FBI lights up. I just felt like, man, this party's under surveillance, but I didn't think too much of it. And then I went back home to Ohio. I was taking a nap, and my wife shook me awake. She had tears in her eyes, and she said, David. I said, what's going on with you? She said, your friend is dead. And I'm old now, something like this. You don't have to be more specific than that. I know niggas with gout. But it was Nipsey. And that's why I feel for Charlie Kirk's fans, because I know what it's like to see someone you look up to and admire gunned down by fucking nobody. Oh, God. It's so hard to accept that. And if you looked on the internet and saw those terrible videos, there was a very cool video of Nipsey's murder too. And then I looked in the comment section, and the internet was doing what it does, and everyone was coming up with one conspiracy theory after another. But the one that I kept seeing the most involved a holistic doctor in New York City. Have you heard it? It's a doctor named Dr. Sabi. In the mid 90s, during the height of the AIDS epidemic, a black holistic doctor in New York named Dr. Sabi claimed that he cured 2 people of AIDS and HIV holistically. And at that time, that was an illegal claim to make in the United States because of the FDA. So the federal government took Dr. Sabi to court. And New York State took Dr. Sabi to court. Dr. Sabi beat both cases. And Nipsey Hussle, unbeknownst to many, was making a documentary, was producing it, about Dr. Sabi's work and his life. And people on the internet believe that larger powers killed Nipsey Hussle. Keep that information from you and I. I don't know. I honestly don't know. But I'll tell you something that I do know. The greatest comedian I've ever seen with my own eyes is Charlie Barnett. Charlie Barnett, a New York street comedy legend. He only did comedy on the streets, and I was lucky enough to meet him. He was a mentor of mine. Charlie Barnett was so good at performing on the streets that from the streets, he booked himself a job on Saturday Night Live. Yeah, but the week of rehearsals, they found out that he couldn't read. So they fired him. They replaced him with Eddie Murphy. Oh, it could have been beautiful. You gotta be able to read to do Saturday Night Live. I know y'all saw Bad Bunny last week. I'm not knocking that nigga's reading, you know what I mean? Charlie Barnett wasn't a turd. He kept pushing. And he went on to do movies like DC Cab, which is where I first saw him. He used to be on Miami Vice. This motherfucker became a star in his own right. The thing that kept derailing him is that Charlie was a terrible drug addict. This nigga started doing crack to quit heroin. Still,
Okay.
he learned how to do street comedy from a guy named Swami X. And Swami X didn't just teach him how to do comedy, he taught him how to get high. And Charlie never could shake it. And when Charlie mentored me, even though he was a terrible drug addict, I never saw him high. He never wanted to do to me what Swami did to him. He made sure I understood that cocaine is just not for you. Even though there's bitches are prettier than them ugly weed bitches. Yeah. Now for that, you remember, he paid her for that. I'm dead as fried chicken. And then weeks later, they said what was written on the bullets. One of the bullets had Bella Ciao, Bella Ciao, Bella, Bella, Bella Ciao written on it. Another bullet had written on it, if you're reading this, you're gay. I was at home like, nigga, I'm going to need to see these bullets. How the fuck is this nigga writing whole paragraphs on bullets? How big are these bullets? What is this nigga, a watchmaker? He can inscribe all this shit on a bullet? I'm not making light of Charlie Kirk Kane, but I'm not sure what it means. And I'm not sure I believe what they say it means. I'll tell you what I don't believe. And the whites were quick to say this. They said, Charlie Kirk is this generation's Martin Luther King. No. Yeah, that's a reach. You know, they both got murdered in a terrible fashion. They both got shot in the neck, but that's about where those similarities end. Charlie Kirk is a motherfucking internet personality. No, by design. fundamentally, you can't function like Dr. King. Internet niggas are negative because they have to be. Because nobody will engage them unless they say shit that makes them upset. That's Charlie Kirk. Could you imagine Dr. King was behaving like Charlie Kirk? Smash that like button and subscribe. Follow me for more content like this. I believe all black people should be free. Change my mind. If the Congress took a vote that October 14th would be Charlie Kirk Remembrance Day, and everybody voted for it. No, I'm not going to vote for it. Remember that nigga if you want to. And remember him however you want to. But I do know that most of those Congress were voting for that because they're afraid of political violence. I'm telling you, it's easier to talk to Saudi Arabia. I was on the stage not long ago in the States, and niggas got mad because I said, you know, you think you're fucking get off. And I said, I hope so. And the cop's like, no. Okay, look, it's not that I think the fuck is right, but when I got attacked in LA at the Hollywood Bowl, people forget. Puff was the guy that tackled my attacker. He saved my life. It's a hard nigga to be mad at after that. I had security that day, you know what I mean? They think this was big. Well, granted, the niggas had some silver shoes on, and something ran out. All them niggas slipped and fell. And Puffy got my attacker and tackled me. And then years later, when I heard about that baby oil, I was like, what did those niggas slip out? $1,000 of baby oil, that's a lot. But remember, he wasn't on trial by having $1,000 of baby oil. Because it's not a crime to have $1,000 of baby oil. It's gross. It's not illegal. I'm gonna tell you something else I haven't said. It's true. In LA one night, I've been to Bubba's house. No, I didn't see, look, no, I didn't see none of the stuff they say in that trap. I walked to that nigga's living room, the house was clean, traction on the floor, never slipper, walk right there. Perfectly normal evening. The only thing in hindsight, but at the time it didn't mean nothing to me. I didn't think about it until after I found all that stuff out. But hindsight was fucked up. We was on the back patio. We was drinking, laughing, talking, and then they puffs out swirling his drink like this. And he goes, so dirty. He goes, what are you into? You know, we had another, I don't know, they get books, video games, I didn't know there was my big chance to fuck Cassie. God bless her. I'm not making light of her. What she went through was terrible. But remember, because I'm showing this video of him beating her up in a hotel hallway. Terrible video. Was he on trial for that? You remember, he paid her for that before the federal charges ever came up. He paid her $35 million, is what I heard, which doesn't make a thing. But I mean, come on, nigga. I do know niggas that have fought Floyd Mayweather for less money than that. And the niggas had to fight for 36 minutes.